Welcome to the Royal Family Real Estate Podcast, where none of us are shy about giving our opinions. We are a local, family-owned real estate brokerage and pride ourselves on being experts in the Chicagoland area. Join us on our podcast journey to hear what's going on in our local real estate market, as well as get an insider's point of view on this crazy industry. Welcome to the show.
Back here on Royal Family Real Estate Podcast. Super excited to be with y'all today. We get to talk about what the process looks like for a homeowner to be able to get top dollar for their home. So super excited to jam into this. But let's just start, what's going on in our world right now? Start with you, Brenna.
Well, I'm still busy for this time of the year. It's unusually busy still in terms of sellers coming on, which makes me wonder, are we going to start to see a shift in inventory?
Yeah.
Praying.
Yeah.
I think this will be our best year.
Yeah.
As a company. Yeah.
Ever?
For sure. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, but I always feel that going into June. So let's check back in October.
You're an ultimate optimist. I mean,
that is true.
For like 8 years,
That's
you're
great,
like,
though.
the world's coming to an end, but we got
I'm like
this.
such a realist. Yeah.
I feel good about where we're going.
Yeah.
We're doing really well. Listings were moving very quickly in the beginning of the year. We're definitely seeing a slowdown there. So we're seeing not as many showings. I just put on a coach home, 3-bedroom, 2-bath in Schaumburg, 285.
I saw it.
And the activity was only 10 showings.
Yeah, and that price is not high for 3-bedroom coach home.
No. So I was really now we
Conant or Schaumburg?
We Elgin schools.
Okay.
So Streamwood High School. It's interesting because it's Town Place West and you've got Town Place and they're 2 different school districts, but you don't see a ton of difference on pricing. A little bit, but nominal.
Right.
With that one, we got under contract right away, but it was interesting, just 10 showings because 2 months ago it would have been probably 30 or 40
for sure.
So in other listings we put on, we've seen okay traffic, just not a lot, and not as many multiple offers, and so I think you're starting to see the market change, which is typical.
Yeah,
I'm starting to see buyers slow down, but I'm still seeing sellers going up. I mean.
I still see it too.
Yeah. And so now I don't know if you mentioned the podcast, but we're June 4th, 5th today.
Yep.
Yeah. So this is typically where you start to see buyer demand come down and more listings coming on. Listings should peak in July or August. So, but there's still plenty of buyers on the sidelines.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, all of us pretty much have a buyer that's out there that would buy something if something came up that they wanted. Some of those buyers are particular on what they want.
I think I might finally be done. I might finally have gotten to the end of that.
Oh, wow.
I got a couple more people to be able to get through. I think my overall market, I'm seeing in like the A schools type markets still rolling. I'm seeing from the buy side things go 20 to 35-ish over, depending on where it's at. But less demand than what it was, end of March. I think where if you look at the showing data, that was kind of like the peak of what we've seen so far. And from the listing side, I'm seeing less showings for sure, but still multiple offers. It goes back to like your principles, Royal, like you price it right, you market it right, you're bringing the right buyer pool to you. They're still there and they're still paying over, in order to be able to get in that home. But it is slowing down and it is shifting compared to what we've seen within the last few years. But definitely going up to, I said, like feel like the peak of the market this year, you look at like showing data was like end of February to like end of March, and then it kind of is still rolling. It's still good, to your point. The summer is better than I thought I was going to be, thank God. So I think that's a good thing for us as we continue to evolve. But there is a shift here, and I just got a buyer in with an FHA loan, which I haven't been able to do for some time now. We did it right at list. I'm seeing this shift, and I'm seeing it kind of happen in front of us.
And that's kind of more out in your areas, like out more if you start moving towards
Elgin,
McHenry County. I've done the last couple ones. I had no multiple offers. Just one offer.
Yeah.
Still selling, still moving, unless there's something, if it needs to be completely gutted or something. but not multiple offers as much.
Makes sense. I got something coming out of Woodstock. I actually got the call this morning, and we've been talking to for a while. It's an estate, but I have some thoughts and some questions for you. Just selling so much up there and being an expert there, make sure I give right guidance since that market is different, right? It's different than a Schaumburg and a Palatine. So it's the benefit of us is like we have local experts in each of our prospective towns.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, well, like we went over at our office meeting yesterday, you've got prices are on their way up still. And June typically is the peak in terms of when you hit your peak pricing for the year. Right. So May's numbers were up, and next month you'll probably see it peak. And then we'll start to see average prices come down. Mm-hmm. And June is peaking because of all the stuff that's in April and May that's closing in June.
Right.
So the stuff we're putting together now is going to be in July, which is kind of on that downward trend of pricing, average pricing. And then showings per listing is already on its way down. That peaked, I think, in April.
So I have a question for you. When you have a seller, right, at the beginning of May, who's like, you know what? I probably should recarpet this. I probably should repaint this. I probably should fix that leak upstairs in the bathroom sink, right? Mm-hmm. And you say, well, how long is it going to take to get that done? A month and a half. So do you go up May 1st with all that stuff undone? Or do you go up June 15th with all that stuff done? What's going to bring you a better price?
Question. Yeah.
For me, it would be, to what extent do you have to have it, like if it's like nominal stuff, and it's just like some small things.
No, it's like the carpet stained and the paint hasn't been painted in 20 years.
Okay. Then I would say for sure, get those items done for sure, because you're going to see, a much larger return on that. People want move-in condition or they want a deal.
Right. Because that's the question I get all the time around this time of the year.
Like, you want a nice home. Sorry, I cut you off.
Yeah.
Nothing. Just that's the question I get all the time, this time of the year. And that myself, I'm like, how bad is it? Like which of those two is better? Just like you said, and it does depend on how bad it is.
Right. Yeah. Can you clean the carpet?
What are we talking about here?
Does it smell like Cappy? Yeah.
Yes.
I think it's best to take the time.
July 5th is fine.
And it's not like we're going in, obviously we don't know the future, but the bottom line is the market's still moving. Just because it's a little bit slower of a time, it's still moving. There's still a demand. So, and buyers out there, most of them, to Royal's right on with, they either want move-in ready or they want a deal on it, and in order to be able to make that happen.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at inventory, like we did at our meeting yesterday, like inventory's never been as low as it is.
Right.
I mean, as a 12-month rolling trend, I mean, it was here in 2008, and it's 10% of what it was back then.
Which is crazy.
I mean, so even if their inventory grows, there's plenty of room for it to grow to where we're going to see any material impact on pricing.
I just read something too, like millennials and Gen Zs are buying homes, and they need homes now to be able to do life, and we don't have homes for them at the end of the day, for many reasons, right, that could go into that. But today I feel like this topic that we're going to go into, just about the process, what it looks like to be able to sell your home for top dollar, I feel like Royal Family Real Estate and the systems that you built out with it help people do that. And it's kind of going off of those things. Like, we know what's going to help get you the most money. We understand the buyer's psychology. So you built systems around that. What I would love to kind of start off this, and we'll walk people through kind of what this looks like, is where does it start for people? If I'm a homeowner now and I'm like, I'm going to sell my home, and what should I be looking at first? And what should I be doing, just to kind of get the ball rolling and to turn the page?
You want to take it?
Sure. Well, I think that topic would be like 70 episodes to get all the way through. So I'm going to take it all the way back to like the very first thing is a lot of the sellers, they say that and they call you, but they're not actually ready to sell. Right. So, I think that's the very first piece. My Woodstock listing would
be a piece of that.
Yeah.
6 months ago, it was in a house. Yeah.
Right.
Takes time.
Well, and not just preparing, but are you ready to sell? Because is this the market that you want to sell in? Because it's going to be really hard to find something.
Yeah.
So that is the very first conversation that I have with everyone. And some of the people are off the table after that. I mean, lots of conversations this year where, they don't They don't know where they're going. And people still think you can buy contingent on your home selling. They still think that, I just had somebody with that last week, and it's like, no, I don't think it's ever going to go back to that market. Now we've seen when is the appropriate market? We've had bad market. We've had good market. No home sale.
I think with more inventory that happens because people have more faith of like, I'll be able to find
never going back.
I mean, I wouldn't say it like it's like, oh yes, that's an attractive option. I'm saying like
it could happen.
It could become something where it's not at least a non-starter now. Because if a home's on the market for, what used to be average 60 to 80 days,
right,
a seller becomes a lot more open to buyers having different scenarios.
No way, man. Think about you in 2013. You got a listing. You put up a listing, right? Yeah. Somebody comes and says, well, can I buy a contingent on mine? And you're like, well, theirs is going to be on the market 3 months before they get a contract.
But let's put in perspective.
Do we want to take it off completely?
Let's put in perspective. It's the only showing I've had in 60 days.
I still, even in 2013, I said, go sell your house.
Yeah, totally listening to that.
Let's keep the conversation open.
I'm like, what are you pricing it at? Yeah. Let me see a market analysis.
I just did that this week, right? I just had one where, actually an agent who wanted to do a home sale contingency. And I was like, oh, I'll ask, but I'm not going to recommend that. They accept that.
Is this your first day in real estate?
Yeah. How many homes do you sell?
And I said to him the same as I've said to everyone who calls with that question. Certainly I'll ask, but when I ask my sellers, it's like, I think the best idea for you is to keep them in the conversation, but don't accept a home sale contingent offer. Well, go sell yours. How quick can you get it up? Home close contingency, we definitely consider. We really appreciate the offer. We don't have any other interest yet. Go get that house on the market.
Get it sold.
Yeah, because why should my seller take all the risk?
Totally. At least give me a closing date at the end of the day so that I know where to go to in a perfect world. So that's great insight, Brenna. And I definitely think that's where to start now because it's not a market for everybody to move into because of that. But there are ways that, like, when you have that conversation, like either they have enough funds where they could carry both and get pre-approved for both. So you're finding them and selling their place at the same time, but without a contingency. There's companies like Fairway Advantage who, we had Vito in the office recently they have a product with like a bridge loan that it's not a bridge loan, but it's comparable to a bridge loan that has a little bit of a fee involved, but that can allow you to take your equity from your home and go into your next place so that we could write up an offer without contingency. Because in today's market, you're not getting it. Like if you're either if it's a sale or even a close, I'm like, let's just keep like pausing. Like, let's get get this thing. Let's get other people in here. Can't
talk till tomorrow.
Yeah, sorry, we're busy. In a nice way. Sorry, realtors. You do it to us too. So anyway, the bottom line. But that's what is in the best interest of our sellers. At the end of the day, when we're there,
that's our job. Yeah.
So that's our job to be able to do that. But let's say somebody's like, yeah, I'm ready to move. I can have this place. We could sell it. I either have a place to go, or I could carry both of these, or I could do something like a bridge loan, and you could connect them to a lender that could do that. Where does the process start then?
Well, for me, it's always doing a walkthrough on the house.
Yeah.
Just like setting up that time where I can see the home, take some notes. I like to take pictures, and I'm the only one that looks at them. But when I go back to the office, then I can look in detail. I think I got that idea from you back in the day.
I was writing Tyler Lukey.
I was writing all my notes, and I was like, "What does that say? Is that ceramic tile?"
Yes, I remember that. Yes.
Like Icorian. I'm like,
only way I've ever done is pictures because of you guys. I couldn't imagine being like, what is in?
Yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah. And it's great because then when you meet with them down the line, if there's and you're saying, oh, what about this? And they're like, what are you talking about? And then you can pull up the picture. I've done that a lot. Anyway, so it's seeing the home, doing that walkthrough, and taking in everything about the home, and then going back to the office and putting together the analysis.
So when you're doing the walkthrough, they ask you a lot of questions about what they should and shouldn't do.
Some are like, I'm not doing anything. Just so you know, I am not doing anything. This is as is. Cool. We've all seen that. Right? There's others like, give me your opinion. And what I try to do is say, can you give me an idea of what your budget would be? Like, are we talking, you have $1,000, $2,000, $5,000, $10,000
budget for fixing things up?
Yeah.
That's kind of that's a smart way to go about it.
Yeah. Or do you not have a budget? So it's like whatever it takes to, maximize the return.
Yeah.
It's a great way to, that's a great question to ask, because then and then you could give them the best options that are giving them the best return on their investment.
You pick the highest return items.
Totally.
Because we can keep going until the place is new, but then, you pick the most important, and then you can stop there wherever the budget is.
Right.
And then usually they're like, I'd like an idea if I don't do anything, or if I do very minimal, or if I invest what you think, and then what you think the number could be. That's always a little tricky, because you're trying to, give them realistic numbers, which you're not actually quoting this, but you're trying to give realistic numbers.
Right. Yeah.
And then you're trying to anticipate how much more you think you can get. But I'll do that a lot, as is, don't do anything other than maybe minor decluttering and staging and whatnot.
Right.
Staging being not bringing stuff in, just reworking what they have.
Right.
And then, if you do carpet, you do paint, this is what you can get. And sometimes there's 3 different scenarios, but I try not to get too crazy with that.
Let's look at a house as an overview. And Brenna, I'll let you guys answer, but I learned this from you. Like, there's certain things that will get you your ROI. Flooring, fixtures would be 2 of those things. What are some other things that are painting your cabinets? What are some other things that would get you your ROI when you're getting your home ready to sell?
Yeah. So, and I think, and tell me if you guys are the same way, like I have certain numbers in my head for everything, because I know when I'm looking at the comps, I would say, oh, that one over that one, that's this much difference, right? And so I will kind of say, this is just my own quote when I go through things like that. But if you spend this much on that, I think your return's going to be somewhere around this. Do you also do that same thing?
Yeah. I mean, it just, when you see the comps, it kind of puts it in perspective,
I mean, the kitchen is always the most important,
for sure,
in my opinion, unless the whole house needs painting and the whole house needs carpet. You know what I mean?
Yeah. If it's like, I just had a home in Schaumburg. You're like, oh, do you want us to paint the cabinets? I'm like, well, I don't really recommend it, because your flooring needs to be redone. Your bathrooms need to be redone. Like, this is a trickle effect. You're not, the person that buys this home is most likely going to gut this kitchen.
Yeah. Or not only that, like you repaint the cabinets and now your, lime green appliances need to be done.
I heard lime green's coming back.
That's I would say almost always paint the cabinets, but it does depend on what else is there and whether or not they have the money to do the rest of it. Right.
Yeah.
To his point,
or if they have the
if you repaint the cabinets, but the appliances are horrifying and the floor is horrifying and that's not in the budget, then yes.
You're like, you did the cabinets, but you get all this feedback. Yeah, but the countertops, blah, 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 blah.
So
that being said, at the end of the day, what you said kind of touches on what I hear all the time when having these conversations with sellers. And I know you guys do too. And that is, well, why would I redo that? I know they're just going to pull it out anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Always. That's what they say, right?
My neighbor,
why would I redo the carpet?
My neighbor did that, and there was a bunch of carpet at the curb. Right
every time, every single time.
For sure.
So what's your rebuttal to that?
So so what I would say is that it's kind of it, and you have to have some finesse when you say this, but like if you buy a
polite truth and grace all in one. Yeah.
Most people have bought a car at some point, so if you get into the car and the car is not detailed, it's just like you get in there like it's someone gets in their everyday car. It's just, a little dusty and dirty. But if you go into a car that's detailed and everything is crisp, it looks like it's very well maintained. You get in there, it smells good. It just gives you a different feel when you're in there.
Yeah.
In addition to when the agent or the buyer is doing their comparables, they're comparing it to a home that's in better condition as opposed to one that needs a bunch of work.
Yeah.
And it takes away from all the calculations that are going in their mind of things they have to do when they're walking through the house. So the more you can take those objections off the table or calculations, then the more emotionally invested I think they are. Yeah. And they may throw it to the curb, but who cares? You got X amount.
Exactly.
We got the most in the subdivision, or whatever.
Yeah, I definitely say that. And I use a frame, like we want to show that your house is taken care of with love. Like you could walk into a house that you could tell like the craftsmanship is crap. The work that's been done is just like subpar, or things are really old. And you could tell that they've gotten that wear and tear, like through a little bit of facelift. Like we could make your house stand out more. And to your point, we could get you more money, whether they throw the carpet away at the end of the day or not.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you walked away
Just
with
let it
more
go.
money.
I know you don't like agreeable gray.
Yeah, it's okay.
Just let it go.
Agreeable gray and white
It's not
trim.
good for the
We're
earth
not
either, but
selling
we're looking
houses.
to get you money.
We're not selling this to you.
White
You know,
trim and gray and agreeable gray sells houses. We could do and white cabinets.
Well,
at the
yeah,
end
back
of the
to
day.
your original
Yeah.
question, white trim, painting your trim,
Oh,
definitely getting your money back and then
For
some.
sure. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. That'd be another one for sure.
That's a tall order sometimes.
So
Yeah.
Could be a lot of
One of the
It could
things
be,
though
yeah.
that I do feel like eases it up for some people is, and I learned this from Teresa, our stager, at one of the houses, is that you can just paint the trim around the window. You don't have to paint all the stuff on the inside. You can just paint the trim around the window.
Same thing with the doors,
Yes.
Yeah.
You don't have to paint the doors. You can just paint the trim around the doors.
depending on the
And
color.
honestly, I love that look more than all white.
yeah, me too.
It warms it up a little bit,
Totally.
and it costs way less, and it's much easier to swallow.
Yeah.
It feels like makes your home homey. I feel like when you do that,
Yes.
too. That would be how I would describe it. So
Yeah, and that's part of them bringing us in there and hiring someone that can have that vision for them.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, that's
and keep them in line with the budget, right? Like we're
Right.
never going to give somebody advice to be like, hey, do this if you're not getting your ROI on it. Like we're
Right.
looking at it as a business at the
And
end
I
of the
think
day.
this is what
Yeah.
What's gonna get you the
differentiates
most money.
agents to a huge degree in terms of whether or not you're going to get the most you could possibly get from your house. Because I think a lot of agents are afraid to say anything, and
Yeah.
and you go,
You
it
don't wanna
doesn't
offend
happen now
people.
in this market,
Yeah.
but back when you were the second or third or fourth agent, nobody had even told them, nobody loves your oak.
Yeah.
Nobody loves your dog's stains.
I think that's why it's so valuable
Nobody had even said it.
to work with local realtors that like are going to give it to you, but with love. Like we're going to tell you like, hey, this is how you're going to get the most money out of your house.
Right.
I tell people you might not always like what I'm going to say, but it's through experience and through learning that I've gotten here. And we could, this is just what it is. You could take it or leave it. But at the end of the day, doing these things could get you more, we're going to get you more money. So if you don't want to put that work in, if you don't want to spend that time, like respect, life is crazy, life is busy, but just know like it's going to be priced here instead of here then. And the reason for that is kind of what we mentioned earlier is it's what the buyers are looking at in this market. If we enter this market, we're going to be on the market for a long time because the buyer's seen the homes that are all done up at this price point or however that ends up looking.
For sure.
So
yeah, but I have a washer and dryer that were, like these things are built to last. Like
The avocado one?
no,
you're talking about?
it's tan, and then my the cabinets that I put in the kitchen, like those were upgrades.
Yeah. When were
I
they?
paid
When
a
were
lot
they?
of money for
Let's
that.
role
This
play.
is
Right?
like
When
real
were they
world.
What
upgraded?
year was that?
1985, but
Mhm.
this was top of the line, and I take meticulous care of them.
It's true. You do. And I can tell that you love it and you've loved it and maintained it. I mean, better than 99% of the houses that I've seen.
You don't see wood like this. Everything's from IKEA now.
Yeah,
You can't get this type of
That's
quality.
true.
They definitely don't make things like they used to. And I could tell you've taken care of them with love. HGTV has changed our business and, oak isn't in anymore. And unfortunately, although I love it, my dad still talks about oak is better than white cabinets. I personally agree, but most home buyers don't.
You talk with any painter and they'll come in here, they won't even paint my wood.
Yeah.
They won't even paint my wood.
Yeah.
They say you can't paint that.
Talk
It's
about
beautiful.
painting the wood with my dad. He'll like freak out. Like, what are you doing?
We've heard
That's such a man
these
thing.
arguments,
It's
right?
so hard.
So,
that and painting brick
full
also.
circle back.
But we are there to remind you that your buyer is probably 35.
Yes.
If you're
And
buying
they
new,
just don't appreciate good wood anymore.
if you're buying new construction,
So many. Yeah. So, all right. That was amazing. So I think we should follow you around with video cameras as you go into listing appointments. Right. So anyway, all right. So we go out there. We're going out there and we're walking through your home. We're taking pictures and we're talking through what the upgrades are, and we're evolving from there. We go back home and we're doing homework. When you work with Royal Family Real Estate, you're always going to get good pricing, flat out. Like if you look at the data that we have that's out there, like we're going to help you price your home to the market to help you get the most at the end of the day. So we go back, we go through the pictures, we go through the comps, we're looking and comparing things, we're giving them the ROI if they do things, and we're giving it to people as is. Then what? Like we go back out there, then what does that process look like?
In terms of once we've put all the
step number 2 with the marketing. Yeah. We have the presentation done. I would say step 2 for us.
Yeah. So step 2 would be, meeting with them and going over probably like, I always try to say, let's budget like an hour and a half, and then the idea is that we just talk a little bit about the company. Then you're laughing, you're smiling.
I'm laughing because I heard comments.
I know it's in the back of my mind. I can't shake it. So
we know what short clip's coming out of this one.
I thought we were going to just take it out completely.
No.
Absolutely. That's our honesty and realness what you get when you work with us.
Oh my goodness.
So
we take our work seriously, but not ourselves.
Yes.
Yeah.
The hour and a half is sometimes it takes 45 minutes and others it takes 2 hours. But the idea is to really sit down and go over talk a little bit about the company, talk about the market. I almost look at it as a mini seminar, to give a really good feel for what's going on in the market, how showing activity works throughout the year, and our placement depending on where we are in the time of year, and just kind of what's happening in general in the market. And then, of course, digging into our marketing strategy in terms of what we do and everything that we bring to the table as a brokerage, as an agent, and then going through that start to finish, which we've got 2 slides that really gives you a good snapshot of each of the different points of the process. So they really know kind of what's ahead of them, and then everything that we do for them. And then the last piece is digging into pricing, going over the comparables, going over
closing costs,
the things that we recommended for them to do. So if you go as is here, if you put your things that we talked about, this is how much I think it'll cost. This is how much I think you'll get if you do these things. And then we can talk about if you didn't, and then we kind of narrow in with the budget. Okay. I can have some people come in and give you estimates, blah, 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 and really go over that. So we can have a good idea with what the strategy is going to be. And then of course, we dig into the closing costs and estimated proceeds spreadsheet. That'll be a line item of all the costs. So they know exactly what they can, they can know an estimate of what they can expect, but it's going to be very close given a certain sale price, how much they owe, all the different fees, line item. Again, we explain each of the fees so there's no surprises, and then they can see what they walk away with bottom line.
Yeah, I feel like when I go into that step 2, it's like, I'm going to leave here today and you're going to have everything you need to know to be able to make the decisions you need to be able to make. From there, you'll have the closing costs. The beginning
of the process, but that's exactly it. You're going to have everything you need to know.
Then it's go time.
Right. Decide where to start and what you want to do and what you don't.
And I think for that stage of it too is, I think for us, like it's very important for us to have good power partners that we work with. So we got handyman to be able to work with. We got painters to be able to work with. We got carpet companies to be able to work with. We have people that we vetted through experience to make sure that we could, not lend them to you, but connect them to you so that they could help you get your home ready with limited stress.
Yeah, and we don't get any compensation from that, but what we get is that we get good service from them, and if they don't do the job the way we expect, we have them go back in there because otherwise we're not going to offer them any more business.
That's it. Yep.
So it works out beautifully.
Yeah.
Free estimates and just give them and some people, especially as you get into fall, won't be ready till spring, but we're going over kind of the initial, this is where it is now. We got to do revised pricing whenever we go on, whether it's 2 months, 6 months. But then it kind of gives them a strategy of how to put all the pieces together. And then we're there to guide them.
Yeah.
Yep.
So sitting in today's market, we going off your quote, Royal, like price it right, market it right, and you're going to get top dollar in any market. But let's look at this market. If a seller calls us today, they go through process, step number 1, step number 2, and we're getting ready to hit after they've done the work that they're going to do, we're getting ready to hit the market. What does the market look like for sellers right now? What can they anticipate if it's priced right and marketed right? Overall, like with how long is the home on the market? I know that could differentiate from McHenry County to Schaumburg, but yeah, what do you think when I ask that?
Take it, or you want it?
Go ahead.
No, I mean, the market is still great. Maybe we've gone from 6 days on the market to 8. But it's yeah, right.
The world's coming to an end.
I mean, it's a market to where if you haven't sold in a week, the seller still starts to panic.
Yeah.
Whereas
so do we. Let's be honest.
Right.
If you haven't sold in a week, you're probably overpriced.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. There's something to be said there.
For sure. I had a listing a month ago and I only had 5 showings on it. And I'm like, what did I do wrong? And I didn't do anything wrong. I was priced right. I quadruple checked. I asked people, I'm like, no, the pricing was right, but it was just more like our market's shifting. It's still good. We still got multiple offers, got that, but I only had 5 showings to get to those multiple offers. So it goes back to like the market is shifting, but you're still getting top dollar.
And that goes to us knowing what's happening in the market too. And, now we know that showing activity is going to come down, so we can kind of prepare our sellers for that. And we're mentally prepared for that.
Right.
But I still think it's a very good time for a seller, maybe just not as good as it was 2 months ago. That's why that sweet spot of the market is always like March, April, beginning of May. As you get into this time, things start to slow. Mm-hmm. So that's, especially as we get into fall, we're trying to prepare our sellers. We're trying to have them hit that sweet spot. And then, but if they can't, it's okay. It's not like anyone who sells in June or July is not going to be able to sell, or it's not going to be at a good price. It's just, you're not going to have the frenzy that you had in March or April.
Yeah. At the end of the day, median sales price is still going up in most areas. And we'll see when that continues to shift or how that unfolds. But for me, I think this is a kind of high level overview of us just jamming out of like, what does this process look like for people so that they have an understanding of it when hopefully they're interviewing us, or if it's other realtors like that are out there, anything else they should know about the process. I know next episode that we have is with a local stager that we use with Teresa. We could dive into more of the specifics, but anything else that we want people to know right now?
I feel like there's like a whole episode on every single one of those pieces. We've hardly delved into any of it. You know what I mean? So there's plenty more to know, but I think it's all, you know what I mean? That covers kind of like what to expect the first time and second time, most likely, that you see us.
Yeah.
What are we going to be talking about? That's going to be the stuff.
How much time do we have?
About 5 minutes, yeah.
One thing I would just add, that when you had mentioned very in the beginning about how you kind of just make sure you evaluate what their situation is, so that you got to get that piece ironed out.
That's the very first thing.
You tailor around that.
That's the very first thing, for sure.
Yeah, and I think that can be very helpful for people that didn't have an idea of what they're getting into and whatnot. And it seems like people that are moving into rentals, which I see that a lot, if they're moving into a rental community, it's a lot easier for them to find inventory. Mm-hmm. But if they're
for sure
trying to find a single family home to rent, that's going to be, or if you're looking at the MLS, it's going to be very difficult. But if you're okay with an apartment community, it's a lot easier.
And they're putting up a lot more of them right now.
Yes.
And out by us, there's stuff going up.
Is there?
New construction rental communities,
Yeah.
So, but what I want to touch on there is that I had, when I get someone who's asking about, selling an investment property.
Yeah.
And this is a whole episode too, of course, but I'll keep it short.
Yeah.
I'm always wondering, when did they buy it? How much have they depreciated it? And so I have this one person, for example, that they've had the property for 1990, so it's been fully depreciated, all the way down to zero. And, I'm sure you'd probably be like, well, we should explain depreciation, which is probably
that's
a good
whole
idea.
Other episode.
But it is. But let's just say they depreciated all the way down to zero, and now he wants to sell it. So let's say we can get $240 for this. It's a 2-bedroom, 1-bath in Schaumburg. They didn't think about this, but I'm like, okay, so just so you know, it's been fully depreciated. We sell it at $240. You're going to have to pay taxes on that full amount that you've depreciated. Whereas if he bought it, 3 years ago and paid, $220, just for example, it probably would have been a lot less, but, and then depreciated only down to $210, you're paying the difference between $210 and $240 minus closing costs. But, you're talking about like a $20,000 to $30,000 gain there, right, as opposed to a $240,000 gain. And that's all taxable.
And to be clear out there, if you are selling such a house, this is your person to call, because I don't even understand all that stuff on my own.
How do you spell depreciation?
Yeah. Well, I'm not quite there, Jason.
Give her some credit.
Sorry. I was like
but I feel like that's the stuff that like you just really excel in and understand and can really get good and down with all those numbers on. Where if somebody called me, I would say like call Royal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Or you call me and I feel.
But there's going to be lots of agents that are not going to understand all that stuff.
And then once they got a contract and they're about ready to close, or they do close, and then they find that out.
Yeah.
Oh, you're $240,000 times, I don't know, their tax rate.
Right.
30%. That's a lot of money that they didn't know they were going to have to pay.
Right.
Yeah. It's a smart talk. And I think that's like a benefit of working with like local brokerage, and especially Royal Family Real Estate is like each of us has our skill sets, right? So like if we have a question, like if an investor calls me and starts talking to me about depreciation, I'm going to be like, yeah, hold on. Let me three-way into Royal. And because I don't know all the specifics, I'm with you. And the joke on the depreciation was more made towards me, but it was funny. But yeah, I think that's a value add when they get work with us is we're real estate experts. And even if we don't necessarily aren't the expert in that, we have somebody that's really, really close to us that we could pick up the phone, we could call, and we could have that conversation so that we can make sure that for you as our client, you're getting that high-end service. Like we're never going to be the agent that just acts like we know something when we don't know something, because we have the resources in front of us to know everything. It's just going to that right person. Yeah. So I look forward to the next show as we continue to evolve. There's a lot of shows out of this one to just back up what y'all are saying. And I think we'll continue to evolve and hopefully bring more value to the consumer. But friends, keep following us. We love what we do. We love to give and share our advice. So rock and roll, follow and subscribe. And another episode of the books, friends.
Fantastic.
That's it.